Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's Legal Line. I'm Nate Fluharty, and during this segment, we're going to be focusing on just that, the law, personal injury law. We'll be taking your calls and answering your questions live right here in studio. And we're also going to be opening our phone lines in just a few minutes. Now, as a reminder, make sure that you're in a quiet room when you call so your TV is turned all the way down. And Legal Line, of course, sponsored by our friends at Rice and Kendig, and is for informational purposes only, does not constitute legal advice, and our attorney-client relationship formed by watching or participating in this segment. So do want to give you a heads up, please consult with an attorney for any specific legal advice, but we are here for you. 318-219-4569 is the number to call. Again, we're going to be opening up those lines in just a couple of minutes, but let's get right to it. And we have the man in studio today with all of your personal injury questions, Marshall Rice of Rice and Kendig Injury Lawyers. Marshall, great to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, Nate. Thanks for having us here.
It is our pleasure. Now, of course, this is the, I guess, the second edition of Legal Line here. Yep. We had our first one with you and your partner. Yep. You want to give us a heads up on what he's up to today?
Yeah, Mr. Kendig, he was not feeling well today.
Okay.
So he's taking the day off, and I'm going to be answering questions today.
And Bill, too. He has missed, you know, certainly a pivotal part of your guys' law firm there.
Bill and I practiced law together for now over 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's a great friend, and I wish he was here.
Yeah.
But I hope he feels better, and
wish him the best.
We'll see him the next time.
Yes, but we have Marshall in the house today. He's going to be answering your legal questions, so don't be shy. Give us a call. And let's get right to it, Marshall. What are we talking about today for Legal Line?
Well, we're going to be talking about things that come up when you have a car wreck or truck wreck or you get injured, the type of things you need to do to take care of yourself, protect your rights, just give information about the things that come up in a personal injury claim. Yes,
and that I feel like this is a very important topic for a number of reasons, but you kind of touched on it right there, the fact that in America today, a lot of drivers get into accidents. I don't know particularly the statistics of it, but I would say the majority, if you drive from 16 to 95, at some point you're going to be involved in an accident.
I don't have the exact statistic either, but yes, it's something. I mean, when we're out on the roads, unfortunately, some people don't follow the rules, and it causes wrecks, and there's consequences, and people get hurt, and they have medical bills. Their cars are damaged, and they've got property damage, and they need a way to fix them. And so then there's the insurance is involved in that, and so the whole point of us being here today is to try to give people some information about how they can best protect themselves if something like this happens. Fantastic,
and that really is in regards of safeguarding yourself. Now, you brought up an important, I guess, side party there when it comes to this, is dealing not only with that other driver that you're involved with in that accident, but also to the insurance companies.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why the need for you guys at Rice and Kendig.
Well, so if you've had a wreck, already there's going to be legal issues that are at play, and so my opinion is it's best to get somebody on your side. Mm-hmm. Somebody that knows the law, knows about how to put the case together, and knows how to help you, guide you through that process, take you from the point of sometimes some of the worst times of your life, and pick up the pieces and help you move forward. And that's what we do, and that's what any attorney would do. That you decide to hire. So.
I think that's very important too, because when you look across the board, you don't want to be the one involved that doesn't know the law. And not everybody's an attorney out there. Not everybody can jump on Google and find the answers they're looking for. And one thing too is because
Google can get you in trouble too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you and Bill also brought this up in your last segment too, is it's important to note what state the accident happens in, because laws can...
Yeah, they vary. So I'm licensed in Louisiana and Texas, but my main focus is Louisiana. And so there's differences in laws depending on where your wreck happens or where your injury occurs.
Okay,
so.
Very important. Yeah. All right, well, I'm being told right now the legal lines are open for you to call 318-219-4569. 4569. So if you have a question, maybe recently you got into an accident, we'll talk about the timelines there and also the statute of limitations there. Maybe it's not even recently. So if you have questions right now about your accident or being involved in one, give us a call. Again, this is a show dedicated to you, our viewers, where we get you the answers you're looking for. So Marshall, let's talk about the timeline in which you guys go to work at Rice and Kendig. Okay, driving down Kings Highway, unfortunately, bam, you're in an accident. What happens next?
Okay, so that's a great question. It used to be, the old law before July of 24 actually, was that you had 1 year. 1 year to file a lawsuit to protect your claim. So we had a 1 year statute of limitations or prescriptive period. In July that changed, and now in Louisiana you have 2 years. Okay?
Wow.
So it gives, I think it gives the plaintiff more time to treat and to recover from their injuries, more time to take care of the things necessary in a case. But the problem is too, with more time, sometimes you can forget, to go ahead and make your claim. So you don't, and also you got to protect your evidence. You've got to, protect yourself by going to the doctor and doing the things that you need to do. So you have to be careful with those timelines. You may have 2 years, but you don't want to wait 2 years to act on your case. So
yeah, I could absolutely see that. I know, if I have a deadline when it comes to, I got 3 days to cut the grass, or do I have 5? I'm going to wait until that 4th or 5th day to do that.
Yeah, I can tell you, having done this for a long time, every once in a while we get that call, that's like the week. It used to be when it was the 1 year, they would call like the week the case is prescribed and they're having some issue with the insurance company. And, there's times where we can take those cases, and then there's times where, based on the facts, you can't. But that is not the call you want. You want to act quickly. You want to make sure that you protect yourself on that claim. Okay.
Well, also too, when in that timeline, if you're saying we now have 2 years, you want to be proactive as well, though. But what happens there, I guess, following the accident? When should folks reach out to you? Because, I mean, I think aside from law enforcement, obviously, I think in the chain, correct me if I'm wrong here, but in the chain of things, maybe reaching out to the police when you're there at the accident scene, then the insurance company, and then when should folks reach out to you?
Well, I mean, obviously, as an attorney, I want them to reach out to me as soon as possible. But, let's go back and talk about when you have a wreck. I mean, first off, you've got ambulance there, you've got a policeman there. You're injured. Sometimes you're incapacitated. You can't, you're in the care of the EMTs transporting you to the hospital. So there's just not a lot of. The first concern is your health. Making sure that your health is taken care of and that you can recover from your injuries. But when after the collision and everything has happened and you're back home, hopefully, and safe and sound, then that's when the process of getting your car repaired, trying to figure out where you're going to go to the doctor, all these questions come up, and you have a decision. You can either do that on your own, or you can decide to hire somebody to help you, with that process. And that's what we do. We would come in, make sure that you have a plan and a system and a way, an organized way to take care of your case.
And I think too, what you guys do at Rice and Kendig. What's that?
And an advocate for your case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important because there are certain things in correct me if I'm wrong, there are certain things in the world of the law, certain hoops that you need to jump through to be able to support your case, and going to the doctor is certainly one of them. Talk about, if you would please, shed some light on why going to the doctor, even in a mild accident, or minor accident, I should say, is very important.
Yeah, so, sometimes after you had a wreck, you think, I'm just going to get better in a couple months, or maybe this is going to be over with next week. You're like, I'm not going to go to the doctor. Well, the problem comes in when you need to make your claim. You have to have medical evidence to prove your injury. And so that's why it's important to go to the doctor. Make sure you tell them about what's going on, what's wrong. Is it neck pain, back pain, whatever it is, you just tell them. And that creates a medical record that can be used as medical evidence at some point to prove your injury.
And there's a lot of things tied with that as well. Certain medications that you may be on, certain physical therapy, things like that, and that can all bolster your case, correct?
Well, that's right. I mean, obviously everybody's injuries are different. But you know, when you go to the doctor, they're going to have a treatment plan for you, and depending on the severity of your injury, it could be as simple as one visit. It could be more involved. You could have physical therapy. You may need a chiropractor. You may need medications, and so you know the healthcare provider will decide, you know, what plan of treatment that you need, and every time you go to one of those visits, it's documented. You know, there's a medical record that shows your complaints, shows the severity of your pain, and then that can be used if we ever, you know, have to go to court because the insurance company won't do the right thing.
Yeah.
We can put that on as evidence to show that you were hurt.
One thing that happens, we're kind of focusing on the people that immediately think, oh, I'm injured.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are involved in accidents and they get out of their car, they feel fine. They think to themselves, no, I don't need to go to the doctor. But that can sometimes not be the right call.
Well, it can. I mean, you know, if you're an offender bender and you're not hurt, then obviously you don't need an attorney for that. But if you're in a wreck and you are hurt, then you need to see somebody because that's going to be crucial in proving your case.
Okay, fantastic. Wow. I'm learning so much on this today, and this is great. All right, we do want to remind you too, the phone lines are open right now, 318-219-4569, and hopefully get some recommendations on what to do when it comes to being in an accident, how to handle that moving forward. Now, Marshall, one thing you and I kind of discussed before the show started was the amount of drivers that do not have car insurance in the state of Louisiana, and that number, I know a lot of folks out there watching, it was a lot higher than I thought.
The last time I looked at it, the statistic, it was 1 in 4 to 5. And you know, that's a lot of people who don't have insurance. Now, in Louisiana, we have a law that says you're required to have minimum state coverage, which in Louisiana is $15,000 per person, $30,000 per accident. And if you drive in Louisiana without insurance, there's something called the no pay, no play law that actually bars you from recovery on your claim up to the $15,000. So that's the other side of it. If you're driving without insurance right now, you want to make sure you have insurance, because if you have a wreck, you're not going to be able to get your car fixed, and your claim is going to be penalized. But the other side of that coin is, let's put the uninsured motorist or the uninsured motorist aside. If you're hit by one of those drivers who doesn't have insurance, now there's no insurance to take care of your losses. And so that's why it's real important to look at your policy to make sure that you have what's called underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage. And that's coverage that actually protects you as a driver if you're hit by somebody who doesn't have any coverage, or your injury exceeds the available coverage that they have, then your policy will actually come in and make up the difference.
Wow. And I can, speak from a news side of this. This happens a lot. Unfortunately, I would say in a given week, we have 3 to 4 hearing reports of a hit and run. That person behind the wheel, unfortunately, they're not stopping to give you their insurance information, but then oftentimes those people that get hit or their property gets hit, left high and dry. But Marshall, I do want to get to the phone lines, and we do have our first caller on there. Mike, good afternoon. What's your question for Marshall?
Good afternoon. I think you just answered my question. I wanted to ask if I still needed uninsured motorist insurance if I had my own medical insurance.
Well, I would say yes, that you do. You definitely want uninsured motorist coverage, because that protects you. If you're, one of the things that comes up in cases when we're trying to prove a case is you've got your economic losses, which are medical bills, the amount to fix your car, things that we can add up on a calculator. Then you have your non-economic damages, which are things like your pain and suffering, your loss of enjoyment of life, the things that are more subjective. What uninsured motorist does is it actually pays for those non-economic losses as well. And so, even though you have health insurance and it may pay some of your medical bills, what it won't pay for is the non-economic losses, which is your pain and suffering, your loss of enjoyment, the inconvenience. Does that help answer your question?
Oh, yes, tremendously. You answered my question perfectly. That was what I needed to know. Thank you very much Thank you very much.
All right, you're
No
welcome.
problem, Mike. Thanks a lot for
Thank
giving
you
us
for
a
your
call.
question.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good one. Well, anyway, the phone lines are open, as you can tell, 318-219-4569. Give us a call if you have a question about a accident, what to do next, and where you go from here. As Marshall just alluded to a couple of minutes ago, the statute of limitations has changed in Louisiana. So maybe your accident happened 10 months ago, 11 months ago, you were getting to that year, but now you have another year added on to that. So
Well, and that's also going to be careful in that because
Okay.
the statute of limitations, if your wreck happened before July, you arguably may still be under the 1 year. So if
okay.
your wreck happened after July,
Okay.
you'll be under the 2-year statute of limitations, and that brings up another good point as to why you should contact an attorney because you want to make sure you get the right information on where your case would have fallen on that statute of limitations.
yeah, wow,
Yeah.
glad you jumped in
And
on
we're,
that.
in our firm, we're actually just filing them.
Okay.
Just like it's a 1 year if
Sure.
your wreck happened before July.
Staying ahead of that
Yeah,
deadline.
that's right,
Obviously,
that's right.
yes. You were one of those guys that got your
Yeah,
homework
that's
done
right.
on time. So back at school. All right, let's talk about this, Marshall, too. When it comes to the insurance company there and dealing with who's at fault, we often feel that it's always important to pinpoint who was wrong, he did it. But break that down for us too, and what people involved in an accident should be doing in order to cover themselves.
Okay. Well, like I said, there's a lot going on after a wreck, and a lot of times we don't think about things we may need. But if you had the ability to, if you're going to be a good, what I like to see, I like to have pictures of the wreck. I like to know, from the scene. Pictures of injuries are always good to help prove and show to the jury and the judge, what happened. It's good to get the insurance information. It's also good to get any eyewitnesses, any witnesses that saw the wreck. Make sure you get their information. And a lot of times the police officers do a great job of getting all that information, but sometimes they forget to get the witnesses or they forget to get some of the information. And so if you have the ability to do that, after you check on yourself, you make sure you're okay.
Sure.
I think that's a good thing to do to help your case. Yeah.
Does like asking for a police report? I know after a certain period of time that
obviously you want to call the police, and I think that's one of the mistakes I've seen. Sometimes that somebody has a wreck and it's like, oh, I'm too busy, not calling the police. I think it's a good thing to call the police and make sure they make a crash report because that gives you a lot of the information. They have a process that allows you to get a lot of that information.
Oh, okay, very interesting.
Through the crash report.
Yes, absolutely, and that does take some time. It's a process too. Just when we just any case involving police department, they take their time. They make sure they do due diligence in order to get that report right. So, all right, let's head to the phone lines. Got our next caller on the line, David. David, good afternoon. What's your question for Marshall?
My question is, if an individual has an accident, that individual caused the accident. He don't have insurance. Period.
Okay.
What happens to that individual? Because I had a wreck. An individual didn't have insurance. I filed with my insurance company. Well, what happens to the individual who does not have insurance?
That's a great question. Thank you for calling in. So actually it's supposed to be reported to the DMV, and their license is flagged, and they're supposed to, they can have a suspension of their driver's license for failing to have insurance. And I believe there's also a process that you can go through with the DMV, that if you're involved in a wreck with someone who's uninsured or just driving without insurance, you can actually put your damages. There's a process, a form that you can fill out and tell the DMV like how much you lost, and they flag the motorist license. Does that help?
Yeah, so that means like before they can get their license or anything back, do they have to settle out?
Yes, it can. Mm-hmm.
Because,
Well, they may have to
actually,
show that they took care of it. Obviously a lot of times when someone doesn't have insurance, they don't have the means to pay the claim too. That's the other problem you run into.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This individual, I saw the individual like 2 months later driving again.
Oh yeah. Well,
and they never settled with me. Say again?
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened. And that's why, and I think you're bringing up a good point as to what we were talking about earlier, is why it's so important to have uninsured motorists, because so many people drive without insurance.
Yeah, okay, but I did have an insured motorist, but that counts against me as an accident.
Well, it's actually not
I
supposed to
didn't
count
know.
against you, because you're not at fault. So you may want to look into that. You know, that's one of the things I know a lot of people are concerned about when they have to make a claim on their own policy, is whether it counts against them. And it is not supposed
Yeah,
to.
I mean, it did, because my insurance went up because
Oh,
of the
wow.
accident, and they had to pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, because, I mean, it's nothing they can do, I mean, against that. And, okay, the insurance company, you know, they totaled my car and, you know, gave me an amount to settle with my car, get me another one.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what I really should have gotten.
Right. Yeah, that is the unfortunate side of what happens when someone drives without insurance. It leaves a person like you, David, in a situation where you're not able to get fully compensated for your loss. And I think it's great that you did have uninsured motorists, because obviously it helped take care of some of the losses. You raise a great point, and I appreciate your question.
Yeah, absolutely. David, thanks a lot for that call. Looking at the clock here, we're going to close off the phone lines at about 12:27, so we got about 7 more minutes to go. So if you have a question right now, give us a call, 318-219-4569. Been getting some great questions already. Let's switch gears just a little bit. We've been talking about underinsured motorists, not insured motorists being in an accident, but what about Mother Nature? How do we handle that? You were talking about, I mean, anybody that drives to work at 3 a.m. like myself knows that after a big storm we can encounter tree limbs. Certain coworkers I know have hit deer recently, so let's break that down.
Yeah, so, you know, if it's Mother Nature, so rain, bad weather conditions, there's really not I mean, there's not a claim. I mean, there's a claim for your property damage under your comprehensive collision coverage. If you have, you know, if you're injured, and this brings up another coverage area that you may want to look into, is medical payments coverage. So if you're injured and you have medical payments coverage because of something that happened due to Mother Nature, medical payments will pay for your medical bills. So that's another coverage that you can add to your policy. But there's no liability against Mother Nature for
take Mother Nature to court.
For taking her to court. So
you
know, there's no claim there under the liability or you know, uninsured motorist. Now, if Mother Nature is a part of someone else making a mistake and causing your wreck, of course, then that's where liability insurance and uninsured motorist coverage would come in and take care of it.
Okay.
Another area too sometimes is road conditions. So sometimes there can be a claim against, I mean, the state Department of Transportation and Safety, you know, for road hazards or conditions in the roadway that are not taken care of. You know, but that again, that's a governmental body, and you have to go through the processes. They've got a cap on damages at $500,000, and they've got certain notice requirements on, you know, the condition of the road. So there's an option there, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the more important to call you guys there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rice and Kendig Injured Lawyer. They are the ones to talk to when it comes to things like that. It really helps learn, and you know, personally, I'm learning kind of how to navigate the legal ways in which a lot of us, you know, unless you're in the legal world, you wouldn't even know. Let's also talk about this. Break this down for me. The Louisiana's comparative fault law and its impact that people have on a car accident.
Yeah. So we're a comparative fault state. So
what exactly is that?
Well, that means that if you have a wreck and it's found that that we can attribute a percentage of fault amongst both parties. Okay, say this person's 80% at fault for the wreck, and this person's 20% at fault for the wreck. It can split up the amount you're able to recover. So, for instance, if you had $100,000 in damages, and they found that you were 20% responsible for the wreck, then your recovery would only be $80,000.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay. I didn't even know that it worked like that.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not just wrecks. I mean, you know, premises cases, any type of injury case. If it's found that there's comparative fault, it can reduce, or-
So it's not a definite, he did this, she did
yeah,
this.
it's that when there's
sharing the
you
blame.
can share fault.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
and
pretty
it doesn't,
interesting.
like if you get rear-ended or somebody runs a stop sign or somebody runs a red light or drunk driver, obviously that's not, they're 100% responsible
Sure.
for that. But sometimes, speeding can be a factor where there's comparative fault. Like somebody's on the right-of-way road and somebody comes out from a stop sign, but the person on the right-of-way is driving 20, 40 miles over the speed limit. Well, that speed could be a factor in the collision and that person's perception reaction time for when they pulled out. So,
Wow.
So
That's
anyways,
fascinating.
That's just a scenario.
Okay, very interesting there. Let's talk about, let's bring it back to when folks initially get into a car accident. They're okay. They don't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. When do we bust out our detective skills, and what kinds of things are we looking for if we're involved in an accident to start putting together the pieces there at the scene? Because sometimes I could see that being a little frantic. You're out there, your nerves are just absolutely shot, waiting on police arrive. What kinds of things should folks kind of initially start doing to start their case?
Well,
process?
first off, check to make sure everybody's okay. Again, health is the most important thing when you go through something like that. But after the fact, you want to get witnesses' names. You would like to get the insurance information of the person that caused the wreck. I think it's a great idea to take photographs. We all have these smartphones now, so we can take a picture of the placement of the vehicles and where how it happened, the damage that occurred to the vehicle, and I think that's just a great thing to document it really. And I think you hate to tell people that you're preparing for going to a trial or going in front of a judge or jury, but I think that those type of photographs speak
Absolutely.
more than words. So because you can actually see it, and so I think it really helps when we're presenting evidence.
And I feel like a lot of these insurance companies are going to ask for the pictures regardless. I mean,
Yeah.
they're either going to
Oh,
give you a
absolutely.
week once you get home, take pictures of your car.
Yeah, when you get it home,
or-
they're
yeah.
going to want you to send them pictures to show the damage. But I think at the crash site, you can actually tell more about how the wreck happened too.
Yes.
So that also is helpful.
And one thing too, when it comes to, you touched on asking the other driver for their insurance information. Assess
Yeah.
the situation ahead of
They may
time,
not
because
be-
sometimes,
they may not be willing to
we
give
know
it
there
to
can
you.
be some
But
crazy
that's-
people
yeah,
out there.
but that's where the police come in.
Sure.
They're going to get that information because they want to make sure that you're driving insured.
Yes,
So
that's a
they're
great
going to be
point.
they're going to be checking for your insurance, getting all of your information, and they'll come up with a crash report. And the crash report will have all that information in it.
Okay, fantastic. Now, another thing too is I've heard this before, so I'll ask you my question.
Okay.
Is I've always heard never admit fault.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Well,
Why is that so important?
I mean, I don't want you to admit fault, particularly if you're not at fault.
Sure.
So a lot of times, I think what happens when you have a wreck is you're like, I'm sorry that this happened, or you apologize when you really didn't cause the wreck.
Right.
So I think it's just really important to, not admit fault, wait and let the police sort it out, let the evidence speak for itself. And even if you do admit to fault, okay, and the evidence, we can get the pictures, we can get the crash report, we can get the witness statements, we can get all of the facts of the case to show who actually was at fault.
Yeah.
So-
Is it really a circumstance where everything you say can be used against you in the
Well, I
court
mean,
of law?
it-
I mean,
I
I know
mean,
police officers say that, but it's
I mean, it
almost kind
can
of
be
like
used
that in
against
accident.
you. I'm sure, and a lawyer's definitely going to, ask you why you said it.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Because I could, as a caring person, I could say,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry this happened to
yeah.
everybody involved,
Yeah.
but that would be a tough scene.
Someone could take that as,
You just admitted fault.
You did it.
Gotcha.
So.
Wow, interesting. Well, we do only have about a minute and a half left. This whole segment has been flying by. But Marshall, tell us, at Rice and Kendig, are you guys taking people right now, clients, clients, so to
we'd
speak?
be happy to talk to anybody
Okay.
that needs our services.
You guys are right down the road.
We're down the road. So actually, we're at 1030 Kings Highway right now, and we're moving though next week. We were actually supposed to move February the 7th, but we had to postpone that, and so we're supposed to move next week to our new office at 912 Kings Highway. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, got some
Yeah.
new digs.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. And folks, if maybe you're stuck at home, things like that, and you
Yeah.
can't make it out, plenty other ways to reach you guys.
Yeah,
at
just
Rice
give
and
us a
Kendig.
call. Give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to you about any of these things that we've discussed today, or anything related to a personal injury claim. There's no, that we don't charge anything to talk to us. And only after we sign someone up, then we go over the fee arrangement. But we'd be happy to talk to anybody who has any questions about this.
Okay, fantastic. And unfortunately, accidents happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people don't have insurance. So make sure if you do have these questions to reach out to Rice and Kendig. Well, thank you so much, Marshall. This is
Thank
very
you, Nate.
enlightening, and we're going to have you guys on hopefully every month and
Yeah.
get these legal questions answered.
Appreciate you.
All right, buddy. Thanks
right,
again.
take care.
And that was another Legal Line. Have a happy and healthy day, everyone.